Maria lived in a small, old apartment on the edge of the city. It was not a big place, but it was all she could afford. The walls were thin, and sometimes she could hear the voices of neighbors or the sounds of cars passing by outside her window. But to Maria, this small apartment was her safe place, her little world where she could rest after a long, hard day. Maria was a woman of strength and kindness. She was not rich by any means. In fact, she was very poor. But she never let her hard life change the way she saw the world. She believed that even in difficult times, kindness could shine bright. This belief kept her going every day. Every morning, Maria woke up early. Before the sun rose, she was already preparing herself to face the day. She worked 2 jobs, one in a small bakery and the other as a cleaner in an office building. Both jobs were tiring, but Maria never complained. She was grateful to have work, and she worked hard because she had dreams. Simple dreams to live comfortably, to help her family, and to one day save enough money to start a small business of her own. Her mornings began with a quick breakfast, usually just a slice of bread or a bowl of porridge. Sometimes she could not even afford that. She often skipped meals to save money for rent or other bills. Her clothes were old but clean. She took pride in looking neat even when life was tough. One day, after a long morning shift at the bakery, Maria returned home for a short break before heading to her second job. The bakery was a small place filled with the smell of fresh bread and sweet pastries. Maria loved the smell, but she often wished she could taste the treats she helped make. On this particular day, the city was colder than usual. A sharp wind blew through the streets, making people pull their coats tighter around them. Maria felt the cold as she walked from the bakery to her apartment. Her hands were cold, and she shivered under her thin jacket. When she reached her small kitchen, she checked her purse. There was only a little money left. Enough, she thought, for a small meal. Maria decided to buy a sandwich from a nearby shop to eat before going to her second job. The sandwich was simple, just bread with some cheese and lettuce. But to Maria, it was a small treasure. She sat by her tiny window, watching the busy street outside while taking small bites. She savored the taste slowly, knowing this was a rare moment of peace. Just as she was about to finish her meal, she looked outside and saw something that made her heart ache. Across the street, on a worn bench near a park, sat an old couple. They looked tired and cold. Their clothes were thin and worn out. The man's hands trembled as he held a small paper bag, and the woman's eyes looked tired but kind. Maria's hunger suddenly disappeared. She thought about the sandwich in her hand. She thought about how hungry she felt. But then she thought about the old couple, sitting there in the cold, looking so alone. Without thinking twice, Maria stood up, wrapped her jacket tightly around her, and walked outside. She crossed the street carefully, her heart pounding. When she reached the bench, she smiled gently at the couple. "Hello," Maria said softly. "Would you like to share my sandwich? I can give it to you." The old man looked surprised, and the woman smiled warmly. "Thank you, dear," the woman said. "That's very kind of you." Maria sat down beside them and broke the sandwich into pieces. She gave most of it to the couple and kept a small piece for herself. They ate quietly, sharing the food and the warmth of each other's company. The couple introduced themselves as Mr. and Mrs. Johnson. They told Maria that they had once lived in the city for many years but had fallen on hard times. Their children lived far away, and they had little support. Listening to their stories, Maria felt a deep connection. They were strangers, yet they shared a bond of kindness and struggle. After they finished eating, the old couple thanked Maria again. "You have a good heart," Mr. Johnson said. "We will not forget this." Maria smiled but felt a little sad too. Her hunger returned, but she told herself that it was worth it. Helping others was more important than satisfying her own needs. That night, Maria went to bed hungry, but her heart was full. She thought about the old couple and hoped they would be safe and warm. She whispered a small prayer for them and for herself. Maybe kindness is the strongest thing we have, Maria thought. Even when life is hard, kindness can make us stronger. The next morning, Maria woke up feeling tired but hopeful. She dressed quickly and prepared for another long day. She knew that life would still be hard, but she also knew that she had the power to make a difference, even if it was just a small one. As she left her apartment, she looked back once more and smiled. The city was big and busy, and life was full of challenges. But Maria believed that every small act of kindness could light up even the darkest days. The morning sun poured soft light through the cracks of Maria's small window as she woke to the sound of the city stirring outside. It was a new day, filled with fresh hopes and challenges. Though the night had been cold and her stomach still ached from hunger, Maria felt a strange warmth inside her heart. The kindness she had shown the old couple lingered with her, like a quiet flame burning softly. She prepared quickly, tying her worn shoes and wrapping a thin scarf around her neck. Today, like every day, she had to be strong. Her 2 jobs awaited her, and every penny counted. But before leaving, she paused for a moment and looked around her little apartment. It was modest and sometimes felt too small for her dreams. But it was home. Maria's first job was at the bakery, where the smell of fresh bread greeted her like an old friend. She loved the bakery. It was a place of comfort and hope. The other workers were kind, and though the work was tiring, Maria felt a small sense of pride in what she did. She arranged bread, filled trays, and helped customers with a smile, even when her legs ached and her back was sore. As she worked, her thoughts often returned to the old couple. What were their lives like? Did they have a warm bed to sleep in? Were they safe? Maria wished she could do more to help them. She imagined sitting with them, sharing stories and laughter, and maybe even cooking a meal for them one day. During her break, Maria pulled out a small notebook she kept hidden in her apron pocket. It was a gift from a kind friend, and inside, Maria wrote her dreams. They were simple but meaningful: a better job, a small home, and enough money to help people like Mr. and Mrs. Johnson. Writing down her hopes made them feel more real, like stars shining just out of reach but waiting to be touched. After her morning shift ended, Maria hurried to her second job, cleaning offices in a tall building downtown. This job was harder in many ways. The rooms were big and cold, and the work was often lonely. But Maria never lost her determination. She worked quietly, wiping desks, emptying trash, and making sure everything was neat. One afternoon, while cleaning a large office, Maria overheard a conversation on the phone. A man was speaking about a charity event happening soon, a fundraiser to help homeless people and struggling families. The words caught her attention. She wondered if this was a chance to meet others who cared, a place where her kindness could grow. That evening, as Maria walked home, the cold wind bit at her cheeks. Her body ached, and her feet were sore, but her spirit stayed strong. She stopped for a moment near the park where she had met Mr. and Mrs. Johnson the day before. The bench was empty now, but she imagined the couple sitting there, holding hands and sharing stories. Suddenly, she felt a hand gently touch her shoulder. Turning around, Maria saw a young woman smiling warmly. "Hi," the woman said. "I'm Anna. I work at the community center nearby. I heard about your kindness yesterday. That was a beautiful thing you did." Maria was surprised but pleased. No one had told her about her small act of sharing a sandwich. "Thank you," Maria said softly. "It was nothing. I just wanted to help." Anna shook her head. "It's more than nothing. It's hope. We need more people like you. If you're interested, there's a group at the community center that helps people who are struggling. We meet every week. You're welcome to join us." Maria's heart lifted. She felt like she had found a new place where she belonged, a place where kindness was valued and shared. "I would like that," she said. Over the next few days, Maria visited the community center. It was a bright, welcoming place filled with people from all walks of life. There were volunteers, families, and individuals like Maria who faced challenges but refused to give up. She attended meetings, helped with small tasks, and listened to stories of hope and courage. At the community center, Maria met many people who reminded her of herself. There was David, a young father working to provide for his children, Mrs. Thompson, a kind woman who cooked meals for those in need, and Sam, a retired teacher who helped with tutoring children. Each person had a story, and each story touched Maria's heart. One afternoon, while helping to organize donated clothes, Maria saw Mr. and Mrs. Johnson enter the center. They looked surprised but happy to see her. "Maria," Mrs. Johnson said with a bright smile. "We didn't know you would be here." Maria's face lit up. "I wanted to find a way to help more people like you. This place is amazing." The old couple looked around and nodded. "We have been coming here for food and support. It has been a blessing." Maria felt a deep sense of connection with them. She realized that her small act of kindness had grown into something bigger, a community where people cared for each other. Days turned into weeks, and Maria continued to balance her jobs with her new role at the community center. She found joy in helping others, even when her own life was hard. The center became her second home, a place where she could dream and make a difference. One evening, after a long day, Maria sat quietly in her apartment, writing in her notebook. She wrote about the old couple, the friends she had made, and the hope she carried inside. She felt tired but happy. Maria knew that life would not always be easy. There would be struggles and moments of doubt. But she also knew that kindness had the power to change lives, including her own. As she closed her notebook and prepared for bed, Maria whispered a prayer of thanks. She thanked the world for the small miracles that had come into her life and for the chance to be a light in the darkness. Outside, the city lights twinkled like stars, and Maria dreamed of a future filled with love, hope, and endless kindness. Maria's life had slowly started to change. The small acts of kindness she had shared with the old couple and the community center had opened new doors she never imagined possible. But still, she worked hard every day, balancing her two jobs with the little time she could spare to help others. She was tired most of the time, but her heart was full. One bright morning, Maria was preparing for her day. The sun streamed gently through her window, lighting up her small kitchen. She made herself a cup of tea and sat by the window for a moment, thinking about the people she had met recently, the Johnsons, Anna from the community center, and all the others who had touched her life. Her phone rang suddenly, breaking her quiet thoughts. She wasn't expecting a call. It was an unknown number, but Maria picked up carefully. "Hello," she said softly. "Good morning, is this Maria?" a calm, polite voice asked. Yes, this is Maria, she replied. My name is James Parker, the man said. I work for a foundation that helps people in need. We read about your story, how you shared your meal with the old couple. That act of kindness touched many hearts. I wanted to talk to you about an opportunity. Maria was surprised. She had never imagined that her simple gesture would reach anyone beyond her small neighborhood. What kind of opportunity? She asked, curious but cautious. We would like to invite you to meet with us to share your story and to see how we might work together to help others in the community, James explained kindly. Maria's heart beat faster. She thought about her busy schedule and the long hours she worked. But this invitation felt important. I would like that, she said after a moment. Thank you. The next day, Maria found herself standing in front of a large office building, a place very different from her small apartment and the busy streets she knew. She felt nervous but also hopeful. She took a deep breath and stepped inside. The lobby was bright and filled with people dressed in suits and business clothes. Maria felt a little out of place in her simple dress, but she held her head high. A friendly assistant led her to a conference room where James Parker was waiting. James was a tall man with a warm smile. He shook Maria's hand firmly and gestured for her to sit down. Maria, he began, your story has inspired many people. It shows that even small acts of kindness can make a big difference. Our foundation works to support people who face struggles like yours. We believe you could be a powerful voice for hope and change. Maria listened carefully, her eyes shining with hope. James explained that the foundation organized programs for education, food support, and housing. They wanted to involve Maria in their work, not just as a helper but as a leader, someone who understood the challenges and could guide others. For a moment, Maria felt overwhelmed. She had never seen herself as a leader. But James continued gently, you have strength, Maria. You have already touched lives. We want to help you grow that impact. The meeting ended with an offer a job at the foundation as a community coordinator, helping organize events and programs to support families like hers. It was a chance to do what she loved and to build a better life. Maria went home that day feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. She thought about the long hours ahead and the responsibility she would have. But most of all, she felt grateful for the chance to make a difference. That evening, as she sat with the Johnsons at the community center, she shared the news. They smiled with pride. You deserve this, Maria, Mrs. Johnson said softly. Your kindness is a gift to the world. Days turned into weeks, and Maria began her new role at the foundation. It was not easy. She had to learn many new things and meet people from all backgrounds. Sometimes, she doubted herself. But with every challenge, she grew stronger. One afternoon, Maria visited a neighborhood where many families lived in small homes, struggling to pay rent and buy food. She spoke with parents and children, listened to their stories, and shared information about programs that could help. A little boy named Tommy caught her attention. He was shy but curious, asking questions about school and the future. Maria smiled. Tommy, you can be anything you want to be, she told him. Don't ever stop dreaming. Tommy's eyes lit up, and Maria felt a deep joy knowing she could inspire even one child was worth all the effort. Meanwhile, the community center continued to be a place where Maria found strength. She worked closely with Anna and others, organizing food drives, tutoring programs, and support groups. One evening, after a long day, Maria returned to her apartment. She was tired, but as she opened the door, she noticed something unexpected: a small package on her doorstep with no name. Curious, she brought it inside and carefully opened it. Inside was a book titled The Power of Kindness and a note that read, "To Maria, whose heart is a light in dark times. Keep shining." Maria's eyes filled with tears. She didn't know who had left the gift, but it reminded her that kindness always comes back in ways we don't expect. That night, Maria sat by her window, holding the book close. She thought about the journey ahead, the challenges, the hope, and the people she wanted to help. Life had not been easy, but Maria knew that her small act of sharing a sandwich had changed everything. It had opened doors, created friendships, and given her a new purpose. And somewhere in the city, a stranger's kindness reminded her that she was never alone. The days passed quickly, but Maria's life was changing in ways she never expected. The job with the foundation gave her a new purpose. Every morning, she woke with hope, ready to face the challenges that came with her work. She still worked hard, but now, her work meant more than just earning money. It was about making a difference. Maria's small apartment had become a quiet place where she could rest after busy days. Sometimes, she sat by the window, watching the city lights flicker on as the sun went down. The city looked different now, not just a place of struggle but a place full of stories, dreams, and hope. One morning, Maria received an invitation to a special event organized by the foundation. It was a gathering of people who cared deeply about helping the community, donors, volunteers, and people like Maria who had stories of courage and kindness. Maria was nervous. She had never been to a big event like this before. She worried about what to wear, what to say, and if she would fit in. But Anna, her friend from the community center, encouraged her. "You belong there, Maria. Your story matters." On the evening of the event, Maria dressed in her best clothes, simple but clean and neat. She looked in the mirror and took a deep breath. "I can do this," she whispered to herself. The event was held in a large hall filled with bright lights and decorated with flowers. People talked and laughed, sharing stories and ideas. Maria felt a little out of place at first, but when James Parker, the man from the foundation, introduced her to the crowd, everything changed. "Everyone, this is Maria," James said proudly. "She is one of the strongest and kindest people I have ever met. Her story of sharing a meal with strangers reminds us all of the power of kindness. Maria is now helping lead our efforts to support families and individuals who need hope." Maria stepped forward and spoke softly but clearly. She told her story about her struggles, the moment she shared her sandwich, and how kindness had changed her life. She spoke about the old couple, the community center, and the work she was doing now. The room grew quiet, and many people nodded with understanding and respect. When Maria finished, there was applause not just for her words but for her courage. After the speech, several people came to talk with Maria. Some offered support for the foundation's programs, while others shared their own stories of hardship and hope. Maria listened carefully, realizing that she was part of something much bigger than herself. One man, Mr. Williams, approached her with a warm smile. He was a successful businessman and a generous donor. "Maria," he said, "your story has touched me deeply. I want to help you in any way I can. If you ever need resources for your work, please let me know." Maria thanked him sincerely. She felt that the world was opening up to her, filled with people who cared and wanted to help. Back at home, Maria sat quietly, thinking about everything that had happened. She felt proud but also aware of the responsibility ahead. Helping others was not easy, and she knew there would be difficult days. The next few weeks were busy. Maria traveled to different neighborhoods, meeting families who struggled with rent, food, and health care. She organized food drives, clothing donations, and educational programs. She worked closely with volunteers and other community leaders. One day, Maria visited a shelter for women and children. She met a young mother named Lily who was afraid and unsure of her future. Maria listened to her story with compassion. "I don't know how I will make it," Lily said softly. "I want a better life for my children, but I feel lost." Maria took Lily's hand gently. "You are not alone," she said. "There is hope, and there are people who want to help. Together, we can find a way." Lily smiled faintly, and Maria felt the strength of that small moment. It reminded her why she did this work, to bring hope where there was despair. At the community center, Maria continued to build strong bonds. She taught workshops on budgeting, job skills, and self-care. She helped organize events where families could come together, share meals, and find support. One afternoon, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson visited the center again. They looked healthier and happier than before. "Maria," Mr. Johnson said with a smile, "you have changed our lives. Your kindness and hard work have made a difference for so many." Maria shook their hands warmly, feeling tears behind her eyes. "You all inspire me," she said. "We are in this together." As the months passed, Maria's story spread beyond her neighborhood. Newspapers wrote about her work, and local TV stations invited her to share her message of hope. She became a symbol of strength for many who felt forgotten. Despite her growing responsibilities, Maria remained humble. She never forgot the nights when she was hungry or the small apartment that held her dreams. She carried those memories with her, using them to fuel her passion. One evening, as she returned home after a long day, Maria found another surprise waiting at her door: an envelope with no name. Inside was a letter and a small check. The letter read, "Dear Maria, your kindness has inspired me more than you know. Please use this gift to continue your important work. The world needs more people like you. With gratitude, a friend." Maria held the letter close, overwhelmed with emotion. She folded it carefully and placed it in her notebook, next to her dreams. That night, as she sat by her window, Maria realized something powerful. Her small act of sharing a meal had grown into a movement of kindness and hope. She had the chance to change not just her life but the lives of many others. And all because she believed in the simple power of kindness. Maria's life had come a long way from that cold morning when she shared her sandwich with the old couple. What started as a small act of kindness had grown into something much bigger: a life dedicated to helping others and inspiring hope in a city full of challenges. But Maria's journey was far from over. One bright morning, as Maria prepared for her day, she heard a gentle knock at her apartment door. She wasn't expecting anyone. She opened the door slowly and found a tall man standing there, dressed simply but with a kind smile. "Hello, Maria," he said quietly. "My name is Richard Morgan. I'm a businessman and have been following your story for some time now." Maria was surprised but curious. "Please come in," she said, stepping aside. Richard entered, carrying a small envelope. "I wanted to meet you in person. Your courage and kindness have inspired me, and I have something to offer you." Maria listened carefully as Richard explained. He was part of a group of people who wanted to help Maria expand her work. They had started a new foundation to support community leaders like her, people who understood the struggles of others and could lead change from within. "We want to offer you a grant," Richard said. "Money to start your own community center, a place where people can come for help, education, and hope. A place you can call your own." Maria's heart beat faster. She never imagined such an opportunity. She thought about the old apartment where she had lived, the community center where she had worked, and the many people she had met along the way. "Thank you," Maria said softly. "This means more than I can say." The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of excitement and hard work. Maria, with the support of Richard and others, found a small building in her neighborhood. It was old but full of potential, just like Maria herself. She gathered volunteers, friends from the community center, and families who believed in the vision. Together, they cleaned, painted, and prepared the space. It became a place of warmth and welcome, filled with books, food supplies, and learning materials. On the day the new community center opened, a crowd gathered outside. People smiled and laughed, sharing stories and hopes for the future. Maria stood at the entrance, her heart full of joy and gratitude. She saw Mr. and Mrs. Johnson among the crowd, their faces shining with pride. Anna and the volunteers cheered as the doors opened wide. Inside, the center was alive with energy. There were classes for children, support groups for parents, and workshops on health and finance. Maria led the programs with passion and care, always remembering where she had come from. One afternoon, as Maria sat with a group of young mothers, she noticed a familiar face: Lily, the young mother she had met months before. "I've been taking the classes here," Lily said, smiling. "I'm learning how to take care of my family and myself." Maria reached out and held Lily's hand. "That's wonderful, Lily. You are strong, and your children are lucky to have you." The center was more than a building. It was a symbol of hope, a place where dreams were born and kindness was real. One evening, after a long day, Maria sat by her window, writing in her notebook. She thought about the journey that had brought her here, from a hungry woman sharing a sandwich to a leader changing lives. Suddenly, there was a soft knock at the door. Maria opened it to find Richard Morgan standing there again, holding a small box. "I have something for you," he said, smiling. Maria opened the box carefully. Inside was a simple key, the key to a new home, donated by the foundation to support her work and her life. Maria's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. Richard smiled gently. "You've earned it, Maria. This is just the beginning." That night, Maria sat quietly in her new home. She looked around at the simple rooms, the clean walls, and the small garden outside. It was more than she had dreamed. Her phone rang suddenly. It was a call from the old couple, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson. "We want to invite you for dinner," Mrs. Johnson said warmly. "To celebrate everything you've done." Maria smiled and agreed. That dinner was filled with laughter, stories, and love, a true celebration of kindness and hope. As the evening ended, Maria looked out the window and thought about her life's journey. She had started with nothing but a heart full of kindness. She had given away her meal to strangers, and in return, the world had opened its doors to her. Maria understood now what she had always believed: kindness could change lives even when it seemed small and simple. And sometimes, the smallest act could open the biggest doors.